It finally happened. I'm so excited. After years of disastrous decisions, uninspired content, and alienating fans and woke content, Kathleen Kennedy is finally actually leaving Lucasfilm. This isn't just another baseless rumor or clickbait headline. This is real. We got solid evidence, and her contract is up at the end of the year, and she's not re-signing. And it's about time. For over a decade now, she's ruled Star Wars. We've watched Star Wars become a shell of its former self, from poorly planned sequels to forced diversity hires and unnecessary spin-offs to storylines that lead nowhere. It's all been part of Disney's quality or quantity over quality approach that has driven the franchise into the ground. So let's take a deep dive into everything that led to this moment, why it matters, and what's next for Star Wars now that Kathleen Kennedy's rule era is over. So let's be honest, Kathleen Kennedy was never the right person to run Star Wars. From the moment she took over, it was clear that she had no vision for the franchise, no roadmap, no respect for the original fans, and they couldn't fire her because it would look terrible if they fired somebody like Kathleen Kennedy, who is a woman, and hired somebody like Dave Filoni, who's a man. People would flip. And instead of treating Star Wars like the cultural phenomenon that it is, she's turned it into a soulless corporate content farm, churning out projects with no long-term storytelling, no consistency, and no passion. But let's break down exactly what she did and where she went wrong. The first one is the sequel trilogy mess. Disney's first major move after acquiring Lucasfilm, the sequel trilogy. $1 trillion opportunity, and they completely blew it. They completely threw the original storyline that they bought off George Lucas and told them that they were going to create, and threw it out the window and created their own thing. The Force Awakens, it was an okay movie, but again, it wasn't what they paid for, and it wasn't what George wanted originally. And The Last Jedi killed all momentum, split the fan base, ruined one of the main character, Luke Skywalker, other than Anakin. But then The Rise of Skywalker was a desperate attempt to fix everything, but it was a little too late. And it was just terrible, man. They ruined every character, and they just changed everything that didn't need to be changed. They were trying so hard to take us away from the characters that we cared about and force us to liking these new characters so that they could monetize new trademarks, basically. So there was no cohesive story at all, though, in this. No plan, no respect for Star Wars lore. And guess what? Kathleen Kennedy was the one in charge of it all. And she was the one calling all the shots and making sure anybody could get a hand in Star Wars and have no guidelines at all. The movies might have been a mess, but at least we had the shows, right? But no, not really. The Mandalorian started really good. The first 2 seasons were amazing until they ruined Mando's story in the Book of Boba Fett when they put him back with Grogu, which made no sense because we just spent 2 seasons trying to find his family, and it makes no sense at all. And Obi-Wan Kenobi turned into one of the show's greatest heroes, turned into a depressed, incompetent wreck. And the only good part about that show was Vader, but everything else sucked. The camera quality, the shots, the music, everything sucked. It looked so low budget, it literally looked like a fan film. And The Acolyte was just ridiculous. With a budget bigger than Dune Part 2, yet absolutely zero hype, and honestly bigger than Revenge of the Sith at the time, even if it's adjusted for inflation. And the Book of Boba Fett, oh man, that was horrendous. I can't even believe they made that. Like, The Mandalorian 2 episodes were pretty good, but other than that, horrendous. But Boba Fett wasn't even in those episodes. So, Star Wars is becoming a revolving door of mediocre shows pumped out to keep people subscribed to Disney+. And the worst part is nothing actually mattered. There's a reason their stock price is half the price it originally was before they started pumping out shows every month. No show impacted the larger universe, no consequences, no build-up, no payoff, no nothing. Remember when a new Star Wars movie came out, and it was an event? Like, people would camp out for tickets, theaters would be packed. Star Wars was the biggest thing in the world. Now, nobody cares at all. Theaters are empty, merchandise isn't selling, and it's the same with Marvel even. Even hardcore fans now have checked out, and the reason is because Disney burned out all the goodwill the franchise had left. It focused on pushing agendas instead of telling great stories and continuing great stories. They rushed content without passion, vision, care, And now, after years of failure, Kathleen Kennedy is finally stepping down. So now that she's leaving, what does this mean for us? Well, it depends on who replaces her. I'm praying it's Dave Filoni, but the likelihood that they replace her with a man is quite low. But if Disney actually wants to revive the franchise, they need to cut the content farm approach, do either one show at a time, or go back to the movie method and put out one really good movie with connective tissue. And go back to storytelling first. That should be the number one key that we go in this. Hire passionate creators, not trend chasers, and send this passionate room of writers to write every single story. Because then everything connects, instead of hiring whoever just wants to have a Star Wars job just gets to write a show all of a sudden. It shouldn't be like that. We need the same writers creating the same story. And if we have a room of diverse writers, we will get the best story. And we need to stop the stupid agenda-driven casting and marketing. It takes you out of watching the show. Like, when they gave Reva all the screen time in the Kenobi show, it took me out. I hated the show because of it. Just let the characters be characters. Respect the original fans. We're not the ones who made Star Wars what it is, but I do not really trust Disney to do this. I think they're gonna butcher who they hire as well. Because even with Kennedy gone, her influence still lingers. The people she hired are still there. The writers who pushed her visions, still writing. The damage she did to Star Wars is still felt. If Disney wants to truly save Star Wars, they need to totally purge and start from scratch, bro. Just end it on episode 6 and move forward from that. Maybe keep Mando season 1 and 2. That's about it. But Kathleen Kennedy's era of Star Wars is finally over, man, and I'm so excited. It actually makes me excited about what is to come. And right now, Star Wars needs a miracle. And with what Disney stock is plummeting, their movies underperforming, fans completely burnt out, they might just have one last chance to turn things around. But will they? I'm not holding my breath. But what do you think? Is Star Wars finally saved, or is it over? Let me know in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more, and you'll get notified when the next video comes out. And if you guys want to check out, in the top of the description or in my bio, click on my channel. You can see I'm starting a GoFundMe basically for my own comic run. I'm trying to write my own comics. I've always wanted to do that since I was a little kid. And I'm selling pre-orders, so 100 copies are being made, 70 regular prints, and then 5 Founders Originals, and 20 comics that are going to be signed by me. And if you guys order one, once they sell out, they're not restocking. This is the first edition. And I will be shipping them out once they're sold out. Once they're sold out, I'm going to print them and send them out. I just need the money to do that because it's actually ridiculously expensive to produce them. But I'm very excited about this. So if you guys could check that out, it'd mean the world.
Nations live in you now. But this is your fight.